Good morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome to Mornings with Marvel, where authenticity lives and thrives to create a space of growth, healing, and joy. I am your host, Andrea Lawful Sanders, and each day we will cover the topics that are informative and engaging while learning from each other. Good morning to each and every one of you. We do have a guest this morning. Please go and tell everyone to either watch us on Divine Mother Diva, MUVA, Divine MUVA Diva on Facebook or at YouTube, A.Lawful Truth Enterprises. It's important that people have access to be able to find us. I talked to a gentleman last night who was in tears that he didn't know where I was, and I said, okay, so we're going to step up our marketing a little bit. And please share the word that we're out here doing the work, right? It's important. My phone did a thing just now because, phones will do what phones will do. And Apple is trying to get me to go up to the 17. I was like, no, I'm sticking with my 16. And then they're telling me the ones that I have now won't work. And I'm like, what? You people are too much. Anyway, there's a lot to cover. I have Kelvin Jeremiah on at 7 this morning, and so wanted to be able to cover a little bit of news that is incredibly important. But as always, I'm starting with my morning motivation, and I'm choosing this one because of something Brian Stevenson said yesterday as he was being in a conversation with his brother, Dr. Howard Stevenson, and Dr. Robin Smith. This happened to me 2 years ago, and it continues to happen for far too many of us. My book was judged by its cover. For those of you who are still wondering why Black people need safe spaces to be themselves, let me share an experience I had at the airport. I noticed the Sky Club was adjacent to our gate and decided to go see what it was about since I never took advantage of the amenities available to me. I got on the elevator and immediately felt my entire presence being scrutinized to see if I quote unquote belonged. I looked at them all in their eyes with a glint in mine, and eyes began lowering even as I saw the unspoken question of, is she lost? Did she read the sign? We alighted on the second floor, and that is where it got interesting. There were people ahead of me being checked in, and I listened as a white woman asked what did she have to do to become a member. She was told quite nicely that if she had one particular card, membership was free, and she only had to show that card to enter. If she had another card, membership was $39 per year, or she could pay a membership outright to enjoy all the amenities. But when she heard the cost for that, she thanked them and walked away. Woman at the counter beckons to me and asked how could she help me. I handed her my card and told her I would like to bring two guests with me. She looked at my card, looked at me, and asked for my driver's license. I told her no one else was asked, so that would be a no. And then she asked for my boarding pass. Again, I asked why, since she knew I could not be in the terminal without one and was clearly flying somewhere. I am gentle with my tone, but serious as a heart attack because I already knew she may claim to be threatened as an escape clause from the box of judgments she found herself in. I would have been happy to hand her my boarding pass if she didn't treat me with suspicion the second my card touched her palm. I pointed to the placard her coworker so nicely used with the other woman and told her that I am the owner of the card that gives me all the access. I did not steal it from anyone, and if she's going to randomly choose people to be suspicious of, it screams bias. Now, may I partake of the amenities that everyone else around me is enjoying up here, or is she still questioning whether I was the owner of said card? She is beet red at this point, and she found my flight, the names matched my card, and I should enjoy myself. Do you see why we cannot simply be? If one isn't careful, it leaves you jaded, unguarded, and pissed off at all times. I had an amazing time in the state that I was in, only to be reminded I was still in the deep south. I chose this because last night, Brian Stevenson, decorated lawyer, spoke before the Supreme Court, got all these awards, went into a courthouse in the Deep South for one of his clients who was about to face, not only jail time, but the death row. And he was sitting there, and the judge said to him, why are you in here? No one is allowed to be in here with the defendants. You don't belong in here. And he realized that dressed to the nines in his suit, looking like every part of a lawyer, that the judge made a comment that was just not cool. And then he said, to his consternation, the lawyers started laughing. Like, who is this fool? Why is he sitting up here? Does he not know this is reserved for lawyers? He stood up and said, "Am I begging your pardon, my honor, but I am the lawyer for the case." They laughed even harder. Like, what? Could a black man even be a lawyer sitting in this courtroom in the Deep South? This happened 2 years ago. 2 years ago. He said the feeling that coursed through his body was one he will never forget, because he felt like if he responded the way he needed to respond or wanted to respond or was necessary to respond, that when his client walked in the room, then it would be detrimental for his client. So he said he lowered his head, lifted it, and started laughing with them. He said it's a story, it's a feeling that he will never forget. And he said now when he walks into the courtroom, he reminds himself that he absolutely belongs there, and he's carrying the ancestors of however many millions of people that died in this country with him. And he said if he could do it over again, he would do it differently. But in the moment, he felt hamstrung. And then it reminded me of all the instances where I have been in situations like this and the way I handled it. I don't raise my voice. I don't have ire, but my energy is vast and my eyes will pierce you. And I will speak to you in the softest tone that makes you understand that I see you, what you're doing, and how you're doing it. The trick, people, is, and it's not a trick, truly, because what helps to shore us up is when we choose to use our voices, even when we may feel fear or anger or all the things. This is just the way it's been in these United States of America for as long as you can remember. And quite frankly, it's not just here, it's all around the world. There are biases everywhere. If it's not about race, it's about culture. If it's not about culture, it's about how much money you have, right? Classism. So all of that is going on. So I chose to share that story to remind you all that these things will happen, and how we react will make all the difference in the world for the people who are doing it to us and to us ourselves, right? Because I walked away from that woman like, yeah, check match. She didn't know what else to say, because I didn't raise my voice. I didn't hover over her. I just told her I said, and got my passes to sit in the lounge like everybody else. Okay, so there's that. Now I need to move away from that because there's some important things going on in Pennsylvania right now. The thing that none of us are talking about right now which is concerning to me, is the Supreme Court race, the Pennsylvania Supreme Court election this November, and the elections are in November. It's now October is almost here, and I don't hear anyone really talking about it, except now I start to see some Democrats, they put money into it, et cetera, et cetera. So I want to read this to you. Why a Pennsylvania court election this November could matter in 2028. Now, we have had this conversation 1,000 times that voting matters. If you don't vote, you don't have a voice, and you already see what's happening here. So Nick Corasanti wrote this, reporting from Philadelphia on September 16th. Justice Christine Donahue looked out over the crowd of roughly 60 people gathered in a Philadelphia high school theater on a recent Monday night and paid them a compliment. You are among maybe 5% of the population in Pennsylvania that knows we have a retention election on November 4th of this year, said Justice Donahue, who serves on the state Supreme Court. So I congratulate you for that. High-profile elections this fall, including a contentious ballot measure in California over redistricting and governor's races in New Jersey and Virginia, have captured significant attention as barometers of the national mood and President Trump's performance in the White House ahead of pivotal midterms next year. But the outcome of three quirky, under-the-radar contests for state Supreme Court judges in Pennsylvania will have implications well beyond the Keystone State. The elections, called retention elections, will decide whether three justices who are elected as Democrats keep their seats, which will determine the tilt of the 7-member Pennsylvania State Supreme Court through the next presidential election. Let me read that again. The elections, called retention elections, will decide whether three justices who were elected as Democrats keep their seats, which will determine the tilt of the 7-member Pennsylvania State Supreme Court through the next presidential election. What's at stake is nothing less than control of the highest court in the most important swing state in the country. In recent years, the court has played a significant role in national politics because it hears cases involving challenges to election law as well as partisan redistricting. In 2018, all three Democratic justices up for retention voted to knock down the state's congressional map as an unconstitutional gerrymander. In 2020, the Democratic justices ruled that ballot drop boxes were permitted in the state. And in 2022, the justices upheld the state's mail in voting law. Along with Justice Donahue, both Justice David N. Wecht and Justice Kevin M. Doherty are up for retention election. Retention races are wonky affairs. There is no opposition candidate, little outright partisan politics, and rarely much of a campaign trail presence by the sitting judges. The justices are also limited in how they can campaign. While they can expand on their judicial philosophy, they cannot divulge specific feelings on a case or issue that could come before the court. Historically, sitting justices are often successful. Only once this century has a Supreme Court justice not been retained. But in a hypercharged political environment where spending on judicial elections has reached into nine figures nationally, these normally sleepy elections are seeing a surge of money and attention. In April, a race for the Wisconsin Supreme Court drew more than $100 million in spending, with both Republicans and Democrats acknowledging that flipping the court in the critical swing state could sway congressional and state legislative maps as well as abortion access. Already, groups aligned with Democrats have booked more than $3 million in broadcast television ads through the end of Pennsylvania's election, with outside groups pledging to spend more, according to data from Ad Impact and Ad Tracking firm. The Republican State Leadership Committee, an arm of the Republican National Committee focused on state level races, has been running digital ads since early August and has pledged to spend seven figures on judicial elections across the country this year. And the national parties are paying attention. On a call with reporters this month laying out their 2025 strategy, the Democrat National Committee gave the Pennsylvania retention elections equal billing with the New Jersey and Virginia governor's races. In a statement, Ken Martin, the chairman of the DNC, said the committee was all hands on deck to retain the justices. On Monday, the Democratic Legislative Campaign Committee announced a six-figure investment in the race, pouring resources into a local group that focuses on voter education and turnout. In an interview, Heather Williams, the group's president, and Democrats said Democrats were finally catching up to Republicans in recognizing the need to focus on judicial races. Republicans had already really prioritized judicial races up and down the judiciary, if you will, and learning some lessons of the past at this organization, we're not going to let them own that strategy alone, Ms. Williams said. Mason DePalma, the communications director of the Republican State Leadership Committee, said in a statement that upending the Democratic lean of Pennsylvania's Supreme Court would benefit Republicans. These three liberal judges have spent years advancing the left's agenda from the bench, and their defeat would spur a seismic momentum shift in Pennsylvania that would create an opening for more conservative policy victories in the state, Mr. DePalma said. Yet while Pennsylvania's retention races are clearly on the radar of national political operatives, they are not receiving the flood of money and attention of the recent state Supreme Court races in Wisconsin. That is in large part because of the difficulty in unseating a judge in a retention race. Conservative networks like the Commonwealth Leaders Fund, which traditionally involved in Pennsylvania politics, have yet to get involved. A spokesman for that group, which has ties to the Republican mega donor Jeffrey Yass, did not respond to requests for comments. So we have been talking about this since last year, that the retention of these judges were coming up, and usually it's a sleepy process because most judges are retained, but because of what's happening in the country and because so many people are incentivized to make sure that these three judges are not retained for obvious reasons, right? The gerrymandering, the mail-in ballots, all the things that we've been able to keep at bay in Pennsylvania. This election is incredibly important. So if you don't get up and vote, y'all, don't say it's not a presidential election. The state elections matter way more than the presidential elections, and I cannot overstate it. From even the school board elections have become so contentious and divisive, so that they can change what is said and done in school districts around the country, but specifically in the Commonwealth. Moms for Liberty. So we keep having this dialogue about things that should matter to us, and we go and we have these big meetings, and we kiki and we kaka, and then we go home, and then we don't show up to vote. It's important, right? Absolutely important. So let me open this up and see what folks are saying. Jeffrey Yas, not Jeffrey Yas. Yeah. Let me also, because Kelvin Jeremiah is coming on shortly. Um so all the people that the president of the United States said that were his enemies are now coming under scrutiny. Ex FBI Director James Comey was just indicted, and the DOJ directs prosecutors to go after George Soros, who is really the Democratic mega donor for what's going on around the country. And so I need you all to really pay attention about what's happening, because I don't want you to get up and start moaning and groaning about what's happening, right? This absolutely matters. It may not feel like it matters to your everyday life, but if these three judges are not retained, according to the news reports, then we're going to be in a big pickle here. Let me open this up. Let's see. Hold on, y'all. Hold on. I had to pull up this up because I can't. All right, let me take a look at the good morning, Viola. Good morning to all of you. I see you here. Marguerite says, can you have a flyer produced by your team for us to share for marketing purposes? I absolutely can do that. That's wonderful. Thank you. We're here. Good morning, Bobby, Marguerite. Happy Friday, Roz. Monica says, yes, I have seen several commercials for these three justices. I found this very interesting. Marguerite says, you're being kind and not changing your disposition reminded me of Mel. Hold on. Reminded me of Mel Robbins' speech yesterday, using her 5 4 3 2 1 rule before laying one's soul to rest. Good job, Andrea. Thank you, my darling. Thank you. And let me tell you, if I ever raise my voice, if you ever hear me talking and my voice is in a place where I'm seriously angry, you have absolutely earned it, because I spend the majority of my life just really, making sure that I treat people trying to understand instead of wanting to be understood. All right, let's see. Come on. Good morning, David. I will have the flyer done. I'm just looking at this. Sandra says, we're always judged by our skin, no matter what kind of attire we adorn. Absolutely. Good morning, Winetta. Good morning, Sandra. Monica says, this is a feeling that only we as Black people can and will experience. Handle with poise and head high, but handle it quietly. Let's see. Lord, you all are, because I named them. I just named them, Laura. The name of the justices: Donahue, Doherty, and Wecht. Those are the judges. So you want to make sure, um, and that this is at the Supreme Court: Doherty, Donahue, and Wecht. Write those names down so that when you go into the polling station, you go, oh, what are those three names again? They're the ones. If they are not retained, then the Supreme Court will be overtaken by the Republicans, and then our lives here in this Commonwealth will change exponentially. So you get to decide whether you're going to show up and vote, and and who you're voting for. Totally up to you. So it's Wecht, WEC. HT, it's Donahue, and it is what's the other one? I just say her name, Doherty, his name, Doherty. Um, oh Lord, happy birthday, Viola! Happy birthday, my darling. You're right behind. Repeat. So all of this is happening, and then because you see, the Democrats have been roiling and getting on everyone's nerves. I am going to say something that may be extremely unpopular, but I'm going to say it anyway, because I find it interesting that Vice President Kamala Harris is now having a book tour in the midst of all the divisive stuff that is going on, and that 107 days are 107 days that we've already lived through. I am praying because I've not gone. She had an event yesterday that what she has to say is just way more than what she was dealing with in those 107 days because we're a country in crisis. And I also pray that as she's having these book tours, these 15 cities that she's going across, that she's talking about her role that she played in all of this. Right where she could have gone differently, done better. I believe that her first stop was in New York, and some Palestinians stood up and talked to her about what was going on. And what she said then in that conversation was that what she could have said when she was giving her speech at the DNC. I know you all want us to walk into lockstep, but it is incredibly important that if we're going to do this work, we have to take the bitter with the sweet. That we have to acknowledge that there are things going on here, but there are roles that we play in all of this, and there's been a lot of performative ish happening across, particularly in the Democratic Party, and we need to get better. We need to figure out ways to pull ourselves together and not just make it a happy rah rah moment. I said it, I meant it, and so let's move on. All right, here we go. Good morning. Why do you not look awake and happy? Good morning. Can you hear? You can't hear me? Then your sound is your thing was muted. Your thing was muted. Say something to me now. Can you hear me now? Why can't you hear me?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Oh,
Yes.
there you go. I can hear you now.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning. Good morning. Why is it that I'm waking up at 6 o'clock to talk to you? There is no ackee and saltfish, no provision, no cocoa tea,
I do.
no,
I do have
no.
soup. I made some really great chicken noodle soup. Not
But I
noodle.
don't
It's
have
not
that in
noodle.
the morning. That's maybe for lunch or dinner.
What? Aren't you an islander? Islanders eat cook food for breakfast and lunch.
Yes, that's what I'm asking you for ackee and saltfish. What's going on?
Good morning, sir. Good
Alexa,
morning.
off. Good morning.
Oh, Alexa's talking to you. All right, let me introduce you to those who may not know who you are. God knows I don't know how that would happen right now, but let's assume that there's
Give me
somebody
two.
watching that does not know who you are. Kelvin A. Jeremiah is an American government official. As president and CEO of the Philadelphia Housing Authority, he oversees the day to day operations of the fourth largest housing authority in the United States. His work has emphasized education improvement and crime reduction efforts. Good morning, good morning, good morning.
Good morning, my friend. How are you?
I am good. You know, we're getting ready to have a good conversation, right?
Uh oh. Uh oh. Oh oh.
You know, I gotta ask the questions. I've gotta ask the
You
questions.
got you guys a question, and because I'm an islander, I'm committed to telling you the truth.
There you go, which is why I get you every time.
That's right.
All right. So I want to start here with the affordable housing. How many additional affordable housing have you acquired, and who have they gone to?
So we have acquired now just over 1,500
Mm-hmm.
units, and we have probably another 500 or so in the pipeline for acquisition, going through the various regulatory due diligence review period.
Mm-hmm.
The units that we're getting have a 60-40 split,
Mm-hmm.
and that is to say that 60% of the units are affordable,
Mm-hmm.
and 40% are market. And that is because we want to be able to use the market rate revenue to subsidize the affordable.
Okay.
And because, frankly, we want to create communities that are balanced, that are mixed, and not ones that are, as in the past, reflect concentrated poverty.
Mm-hmm.
And so those are the units and the people that are benefiting from it.
Okay. Market values have gone up in across the country for
Hmm.
housing, specifically here in Pennsylvania. How does that impact your work, if any?
Well, I mean, we were saying while there are increases in market value, the average home price, the average single home in Philadelphia is somewhere around 240 to 250.
Mm-hmm.
But as I've shared with you in the past, it cost us way more than that to
Mm-hmm.
build one unit
Mm-hmm.
of housing in the city, in part because of the high cost of labor.
Mm-hmm.
And so we have a situation where we have New York construction prices with Alabama rents in the case of Philly, and
Mm-hmm.
so it's difficult to manage in that environment when you're looking at an average household income of somewhere around $24,000 and an average rent of somewhere around $365, regardless of
Mm-hmm.
unit size. So the families that we are supporting are deeply subsidized, are very low income, and they require a lot of assistance. And in
Mm-hmm.
fact, I would also say they have a lot of needs as well.
Yes.
And we can talk a little bit about
Yeah, we will.
that later. But the values that we're seeing is still ones that, to the extent that we want to continue our acquisition strategy,
Mm-hmm.
it still makes a lot of sense for us
Mm-hmm.
because, as I said, I can buy a unit for an average price of say 225, 250. If I decided to build, I'm building at $600,000 for that same
Mm-hmm.
unit.
Mm-hmm.
So it still makes a lot of sense. So we need to confront in a more holistic way the price of construction.
Mm-hmm.
But as I said in the past, the strategies that we have are multi-pronged. We want to preserve the existing housing stock. We
Mm-hmm.
want to be able to acquire and expand, and we want to
Mm-hmm.
build new because some of the developments, the existing developments that are, say, 60 plus years old, requires a large amount of investment.
Mm-hmm.
And so we cannot just continue to wait. We cannot just continue to do the kind of patch fixes that we
Mm-hmm.
have. The building systems are old, the roofs are
Mm-hmm.
old, the 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 layout of the units are obsolete and too
Mm-hmm.
tiny in some cases. They wouldn't pass modern livability standards. They're
Yeah.
not visitable, so on and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
And so these are investments I think are a critical investment,
Mm-hmm.
and we're getting real value. And it's a way for us, frankly, to balance
Mm-hmm.
any, shall I say, downturns in federal support, which, as you know, is something that
Mm-hmm.
is ongoing and has
Mm-hmm.
been a challenge for us.
Mm-hmm.
So, 93% of our funding comes from the federal government.
Mm-hmm.
So if there are federal budget cuts, it really has a direct impact
Mm-hmm.
on us. And so, what I've tried to do is find private sources to invest in Philadelphia housing. And so we've been very successful in
Yes,
doing
you
that.
have.
I have some news. I think I don't know if we've shared this before, but I issued a $302 million non taxable or tax exempt rather bonds that was oversubscribed. So we now have 300 more $1 million in our coffers.
What?
We've gone to the market. We have a line of credit, and so
Mm-hmm.
we have a number of tools that we're using, including leveraging the resources that we get from the federal
Mm-hmm.
government
Mm-hmm.
to address the housing needs and the housing strategy that I unveiled with you and others several weeks ago.
I- I- Your leadership continues to inspire. And let me tell you why. Oftentimes, you said 90%, 90%, a whole lot of more than 89%, 93% of your budget comes from the federal government. Instead of, because one of the questions I had for you was this: what is happening at the federal level in housing that could impact the residents of PHA? You brought it up before I even said anything. But what you decided to do was not just sit still and wait for the hammer to drop about losing funding. You literally went into creating spaces and finding additional resources from folks here in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and beyond. And I've seen you do this at the Seeds event, right? Where
Yep.
the Philly school leader was like, if you raise a certain amount of money, I'll match you with that raise, and I'll get more philanthropists to match you. Do you think you will ever get to a place where you need minimal amount of money from the federal government to exist?
No, no. Not unless the city and the state steps up. So with I am not being critical when I say, and these are facts, right? So when I say that, Philadelphia Housing Authority is one of those housing authorities that, for whatever reason, I think it's a broader issue around the city and state. We don't get the level of investment in our operating and capital
Mm-hmm.
program that many other of my colleagues do,
Yes, yes.
right? And that's, New York is a huge. New York City is huge.
Mm-hmm.
They're the largest housing authority in North
Mm-hmm.
America,
Mm-hmm.
but they receive direct financial support for their operation and their capital needs from the city and the state,
Did not know that.
right? And so, these are significant investment that uh, the
Can
city
you
and state
tell
are
me like
making
how much they get each year from the city and
in
state? Do you have a
in
ballpark?
yeah, in the case of the city and state, somewhere around 2 to 5 2 over $2 billion.
Stop it. I'm just going to let that sit there for a second. $2 billion from the city and state in New York City for housing?
Hmm.
What do we get in Philadelphia from the city and state?
As in a number.
As in a number, sir. Yes.
Hmm. That number is zero. We receive no operating subsidies from the city nor state. We receive competitive grants that doesn't really take anything from the city or state. Some pass-through funds that comes from the feds, from the city, and tax credits that are competitive on the state level. So when we talk about and this is a values question, right?
Mm-hmm.
We live in a city that has a lot of challenges, and I think one of the things that I really really appreciate and commend Mayor Parker for is her tenacity around making and putting housing, particularly affordable housing, as a core pillar of her administration's agenda. And we're seeing that she's making and proposing real investments in affordable housing and, as I said, housing more broadly, in building communities across our great city. I think that's a great thing. I think, we're partnering, we're leveraging funds to make things happen in a real way. She has proposed and got approval for the $800 million bond in two tranches
Mm-hmm.
that will be going to a lot of housing needs across the city. Uh, but folks have often asked me, Kelvin, how much of the bonds are you getting? How much money you're getting directly from the city? And we don't.
Mm-hmm.
We have strategic, programmatic initiatives that the city and PHA agrees to fund. We collaborate on major issues and major programs and projects. We do receive project specific funding from the city based on our negotiations and asks. For example, the mayor and council committed some $14 million for the rebuilding of the UC Townhome units.
Mm-hmm.
The mayor was incredibly thoughtful and instructive around an investment in Bert Shalom, 3939 Conshohocken, where she committed to $8 million. She and council $8 million towards that project, and so we do have investments on a project by project basis that we have. They're a partner in choice neighborhoods for Bartram as they were for Norris and Shawswood, and so there are
Mm-hmm.
things that we're doing. I don't want to leave any viewer or listener with the impression that the city is not supportive. They very much are, but in an environment where you have so many competing and urgent needs, where you're fighting and addressing crime issues, where you're dealing with lifting a people up from poverty, where you're trying to build a better education and economic situation for that lifts all residents. There are a lot of issues at the same time that you're doing all of those social programming. You still have the economic ones, right?
Mm-hmm.
The infrastructure needs that we have, um, the build out of neighborhoods that have been distressed, the trying to put people on a path to social and economic mobility in a shared way, while not marginalizing any group or any people or any class. These are real challenges of our time. But I will always maintain that the civil rights issue of our generation is a housing issue.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I agree. Yesterday, I was having a conversation about poverty and how we treat each other, and the dialogue came up that in this city, uh, this was said to me that there are people who are not spending their money wisely, which is why they can't pay their rent, and that it's an issue. And I don't know, and correct me if I am wrong. I don't know if it's because I'm from an island and I see the poverty in a different way. I feel like we are judged because we are poor.
Hmm.
You're buying the $1,000 phone, you're buying the blah 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 blah. And as I listened to this conversation, you came to mind. I actually said PHA is doing all this work to help people, to uplift them, to get them to where they need to be. When the average income, yes, Andrea just said it. She said, I immediately thought of this man when you and Cherie spoke yesterday about housing. I'm telling you, I literally invoked you because I feel on so many levels that you understand what is happening within our communities, and that it's so much easier to judge our people versus trying to understand. It's so much easier to want to be understood instead of wanting to understand, right?
Right.
And my soul was so grieved. Literally, I turned my neck to the side because I truly want us to get That when we're sitting looking at people and saying they can't afford to pay their rent, people may have decent credit and can get into a space, but their jobs may have been downgraded where they lose money. They may have lost their job. Somebody living in the house with them may not have a job, or maybe they have somebody in the house living with them. What do you want to add to this piece about paying the rent? Because if the average salary income in Philadelphia is $24,000, sir, how does one exist on that and live in housing where so many people are now living in their cars? We're seeing a lot of people now with their cars filled with clothes, they're living on the streets, et cetera, et cetera. What would you like to add to this conversation? Please save my soul, because maybe I'm wrong.
Well,
And if I am wrong, tell me I'm wrong.
well, you're not wrong, right? So that's the first thing. Secondly, let's just confront the issue dead on. If you are a subsidized resident, whether you're receiving housing choice voucher or living in PHA or in a tax credit property, your rents are subsidized,
Yes.
right? And so I subscribe to a kind of balanced approach. One, what we call sometimes the carrot and the stick. All right. You're an island girl. You understand, as I'm an island boy. I get it. You reward good behavior and you punish
Mhm.
bad behavior. And so I don't want to step too far away from that. But if you're living in PHA and you have the average of household income of $24,000, it is why you're paying no more than 30% of your household income. It means that you essentially on for rent. It means
Mhm.
that you have 70% of your income to address your other needs. Those folks who are not um, subsidized are paying more than 50%,
Of
in
their
fact,
income.
75% of their income
Mhm.
sometimes
Mhm.
for rent and and are considered severely rent burden.
Mhm.
But I'll focus for our discussion. I'll focus this on PHA. We've seen recently that for the first time since 1979, Philadelphia is no longer the largest,
Registers.
poorest
Mhm.
city in America.
Mhm.
Now, for the first time since 1979,
Mhm.
we have a poverty rate that is below 20%. I think the work that the mayor and has done and the focused attention on lifting people up, finding
Mhm.
pathways to economic prosperity is working, and we see that in a real way at PHA.
Mhm.
Andrea, I think I have shared with you in the past. I grew up in a household where I was poor, but I didn't know that I was poor. Right? I honestly didn't know that I was poor because my needs, the basic needs, were being met to the extent that they could.
Mhm.
And, we had, for example, I tell people, I know what it means to not have anything because I've been there. I
Mhm.
know what it means to only have one meal a day
Mhm.
and rely on, because we're in the Caribbean, the fruits and vegetables,
Mhm.
right? We can have mangoes, we can have sugarcane, we can have bananas. We just go to the garden and we pick it and we do it. You can grab a bunch of plantains, throw it on some wood, a burning fire, and
Mhm.
and have that. That's a meal for
Mhm.
some folks.
Mhm.
So I get that, but too often we want to see people as being different. And that is the problem that I think that permeates so much of our discussions. They are different than us. They live differently than we do. They speak different than we do. They don't have our values. They are lazy.
Mhm.
They sit on their stoops rather than going out and finding meaningful ways to make a living. They're not
Mhm.
hustling like we
Mhm.
are. And
Mhm.
these are all of the things that we tell
Mhm.
ourselves when we look at each other.
Mhm.
But having having been poor
Mhm.
and not having the things that I needed to live, should I be denied because I have a $24,000 income the nice things? And that is the question that we should be asking ourselves. Many of our families are one paycheck away from losing their homes or not being able to buy food.
Mhm.
Some of us are already there,
Yeah.
right? And it's a struggle. We juggle. I want people to, because I'm a landlord, I want people to pay their rents,
Mhm.
right? Because it has real consequences for us
Mhm.
as an
Mhm.
organization in providing the services that the residents need. And because your rent is 30% of your income,
Mhm.
unlike anywhere else, and
Mhm.
because it's $365,
Mhm.
we have to be smart about how we spend the little that we do
We
have.
have.
Your mother taught you that,
Mhm. Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
So my great grandmother who raised me used to say, Kelvin, is it something that you want or
Or
is it
is it
something
something
that you
that you
need?
need? Yep.
Because the
Yep.
wants can wait. The
Mhm.
need, let me address the need,
Yes.
right?
Right.
And so you need to go to school, you need that 50 cents for bus,
Mhm.
you know. I want to go to the beach and have fun,
Mhm.
I'll address the need, not the wants.
Mhm.
And when I have extra, maybe the wants can, some part of the wants can happen. Um, but we have to teach our families
I was just about to say.
about income, their
Mhm.
earnings.
Mhm.
I would teach our families about credit
Mhm.
and access to it, and how to manage themselves.
Yes.
We don't
Without judgment,
without.
because so many have not been taught.
Well, let me give you an example. Right, I think I'm a fairly intelligent person. I went away to college, and as part of my orientation,
Mhm.
um, I remember distinctly being right outside of the orientation room, all of the credit card companies. We had what they call for student visas, Visa, Mastercard. You had the American Express card for
Mhm.
students,
Mhm.
and I had remember coming from where I've come from. We don't use credit,
You either
right?
have it or
As
you
much.
don't.
You either have it or you
Mhm.
know. You might want to what we call trust. We might want to
Mhm.
go to the store and trust your grocery
Mhm.
with the idea
Mhm.
that at the end of the month you pay because we get paid
Mhm.
monthly.
Mhm.
In most of us in the Caribbean did. Um, and so I am in college and all of these cards, and I'm poor, right? I am not thinking about the consequences of getting it, of having to pay that bill. When I'm hungry now,
Right.
I apply for the American Express.
And
I
you got
apply
it.
for and because I'm a student.
Mhm.
I mean,
Mhm.
the credit limit wasn't great
Mhm.
because I was a student.
Mhm.
Um, but a $2,000 credit limit or a $3,000 credit limit on a card
Mhm.
afforded me an opportunity to buy food, to
Mhm.
buy clothes, to get the haircut that I needed. And they came with a cash advance. In
Mhm.
fact, they would send me a check every so
Mhm.
often. All I needed to do was sign it, right? Cash it. Not thinking about the consequences because I understood that,
Mhm.
the payments back then was what, $15 a
Mhm.
month?
Mhm.
And if you're paying the $15, now you max it out, right?
Mhm.
Now you don't
Mhm.
have any access to it because it's $15 and the $15 only address the interest, And so that $3,000 credit limit that you have, that you're paying $15 on, it's only going down by a buck or two,
If that much.
if that much. But nobody tells you about that. Nobody tells you how to manage it, that you should never use more than 30% of your credit.
Mm-hmm.
They start dinging you for that. That to the extent that you can pay it off,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
right? That you can use credit to get more credit and to build capital. Or, what where we come from,
Mm-hmm.
there are some core bills that we pay,
Mm-hmm.
right? Many of us own our own homes in the Caribbean. We don't do there isn't a whole lot of renting.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's that you have on a half an acre, your
Mm-hmm.
grandmother, your uncle, everybody's living on the family land,
Mm-hmm.
right? And it's a wood house, sometimes a wood and wall structure,
Mm-hmm.
but we own it. But
Yes.
the bills that we have, we know that we have to pay our light bill.
Yep.
In PHA, most of that is covered.
Mm-hmm.
We give you a subsidy for that too, by the
Wow.
way,
Yes.
right? You know that if you are the electricity bill and
Mm-hmm.
your gas,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Because that's what we use. Or and if you don't have gas, most of us cook on
Sticks
firewood.
and wood. There you go.
Cook
There you go.
on firewood outside. We
Mm-hmm.
build a little shed kind of thing, and we
Mm-hmm.
go in there and we do our thing. No problem whatsoever. But we manage based on what we have and what we think we're getting,
Mm-hmm.
and it works for us. So here you have a situation where families are living in poverty. Their rents are being paid.
Mm-hmm.
Um, their basic needs are being met.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you are, you can be on food stamps or cash assistance and
Mm-hmm.
Medicaid and Medicaid. So, what is the incentive for folks to leave that situation? Because poverty is a trap that they don't tell you about.
Mm-hmm.
And I've told you the story about my lovely mom who came
Mm-hmm.
here,
Mm-hmm.
worked,
Mm-hmm.
was an in-house, stay at home, not a stay at home,
Mm-hmm.
what do they call it?
Live in heaven.
Lived in
Yes.
housekeeper,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so I only saw her on the weekends. She made
Weekends.
$225
Mm-hmm.
a week. Um, and she was eligible for so many things.
I never
And
accepted it.
and never accepted it.
Mm-hmm.
She never, and I don't know if it's a Caribbean
It
thing,
is.
all right, but she often said to me that there is value in work
Yeah.
and every job is valuable,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
right?
And she was correct.
And
Andrea
she
just
was correct.
asked, is a financial literacy class part of the programming for PHA? I know the answer is yes.
Yes,
Yes.
it has to be because, again, you know, I hear so often we don't use banks,
Mm-hmm.
right? Many of our residents, how they save, they get their money
Mm-hmm.
and it's still in shoe boxes, it's under the bed, it's in a suitcase,
Mm-hmm.
in a closet somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's how they save. And we want to be able, there is a gentleman, Mr. Fair, who bought a house.
Mm-hmm.
He and his mom lived in a scattered site all their life.
Mm-hmm.
He promised her that he was gonna buy the house,
Mm-hmm.
own that house,
Mm-hmm.
when she passed.
Mm-hmm.
And he came to PHA wanting to do that. He's a PHA resident. We worked with him. He had no credit. Now we're talking a man older than you and me, no credit whatsoever.
Yeah.
So we helped him get credit. We help him understand budgeting, understanding financial literacy, if you will,
Mm-hmm.
getting him to understand all of those things. He now
Mm-hmm.
has a credit score of over 800, and he's understanding the access that that provides. He did, in fact, ultimately bought his family home,
Mm-hmm.
where his mom raised he and his siblings, right? and he is doing incredibly well. Financial literacy has to be part of the discussion. Too many of our families have no idea,
None.
none whatsoever, what it means to be literate in a
Mm-hmm.
financial sense and how to budget.
Mm-hmm.
We know how to make ends meet. That is different than budgeting. That is different than living within our means.
Means
But I
yes.
go back to where you started. I do not and will never subscribe to the idea that because I am poor, I shouldn't have nice things,
Yeah.
right? I think we want to have a balanced approach.
Mm-hmm.
Let's think about the consequences of those nice things.
Mm-hmm.
For instance, I cannot mention names, but I see often when we engage in evictions, right? I see often a particular condition, right? So I mentioned we want most families are probably a one paycheck away, right? Um, but the truth is that before you consider all of those nice things that you want, because I do that too, you
Mm-hmm.
know, Andrea, I like a nice Gucci bag like the best of them. I love Louis Vuitton.
Mm-hmm.
I love to step out and looking nice and fresh in my,
Mm-hmm.
the new Nikes or the new
Mm-hmm.
Jordans. I don't wear
Mm-hmm.
Jordans. I don't wear sneakers, but I mean, I like to look good.
Yes.
Like I
Yes.
like to get every week. I go and get a haircut,
Mm-hmm.
right? My daughters love to get their hair silk press or something or whatever it's
Mm-hmm.
called,
Mm-hmm.
and daddy is paying for it. I
Mm-hmm.
get it,
Mm-hmm.
right? But that should not be the at the expense of meeting your obligations first and foremost to your family.
Yes.
So before you buy that Gucci bag, is your rent paid?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's an unfair question to ask
Mm-hmm.
someone.
Mm-hmm.
So when my folks go into court, right, and we see somebody getting evicted because they owe, say, 15, $20,000.
What?
When you haven't paid your rent, when you haven't paid you heard me correctly. When you haven't paid your rent for 3 years or since 2020, since COVID, when every year you're taking that trip, right? You're going on the cruise. When you spend, because it's a Philadelphia tradition, to
Mm-hmm.
send to what was it? What is it called? A prom send off or a graduation send off? And I love the idea that you want to celebrate your children, that you are proud of them, that
Twenty
you want to
thousand
have,
dollars.
and but you're paying $10,000 for the prom and prom send off, but you haven't paid your rent since
Rent. Yeah.
2020,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? I think that's where we say that there are consequences to the
This is
choices
well.
that you
Yes.
make. There are
Yes.
consequences to the behavior. So
Mm-hmm.
yes, enjoy the nice things, but pay your rent,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Make sure you're taking care of your familial needs. I don't think it's unfair to ask those questions because if I'm coming into court as I often are because I'm now evicting you and you have a $12,000 or $9,000 rent arrears that you haven't paid rent in over a year, and I look at you.
And you're Gucci down to the nines, huh? For the person that owes the money, right? You got on name
Yes,
brand everything, but that's a part of the fallacy of how we live. We're taught that in order to fit in and not to look poor, we got to spend all this extra money,
right.
and it's a thing. It's a
What is
thing
what
here.
is different? So I have some friends who are. Andre, they are so damn rich.
Mm-hmm.
They are rich.
Mm-hmm.
They have that kind of, what do we call it? That FU money.
Yes. You are so
I, I don't have that.
Yeah, the average person don't have it, right?
We don't
And
have
they
that.
live simpler lives. You know that, right?
Yes.
So many of them,
But
you
but
won't even be able to tell.
I have this friend. He came to see me, right? He is a he has billions in assets.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he has old money and he has new money,
Mm-hmm.
right? And Andre, he came to see me wearing Dickies,
Yep.
shoes that look like,
Yep.
he only has one pair.
Yep.
He's the most understated person. He can
Mm-hmm.
have his own drive. He can get a beautiful Bentley to
Mm-hmm.
drive him into Philadelphia. Instead, he takes the train.
Yep.
And if you see him on the street,
You would never know.
you would never know.
Yep.
He gets to Philadelphia, he takes Uber
Mm-hmm.
to see me.
Mm-hmm.
Then he gets back with an Uber,
Mm-hmm.
right? There is not he doesn't wear the diamond rings, the gold, anything. If you're secure about yourself and your finances, you don't need to show it. It is those of us who are
Come
not
on.
secure about our
Mm.
finances who would need to show people that we have the latest Jordan, right? My daughter asked me for a pair of Jordans the other day. I almost fall over. The thing is like $300-$400.
Well, I only wear sneakers to go to the gym. It must be an island thing. I don't wear sneakers either.
I
I
don't.
don't. Mm.
But and so I don't get it. I
Yeah.
would not. I would not listen. I told you I like nice things.
Mm-hmm.
I have no problems. I discovered Foreman, what is it called?
Mills.
Foreman Mills.
Foreman Mills.
I
Foreman Mills.
discovered Dollar General because I was
Yes.
buying
Yes.
things to
Yes.
every
Yeah.
year to
Uh-huh.
I support
Uh-huh.
about 100 families where I come
Uh-huh.
from.
Uh-huh.
So I buy and I could go in there, $100 get me 100 items.
Yes.
Right?
Not anymore. But okay.
It's $1.25 or $1.29. I know. But I'm saying you have to be responsible.
Yeah.
And so when we take eviction on action against someone, it breaks my heart because it's a full breakdown. Let me give you one last example, and I don't want this to be stereotypical,
Yes.
because I'll tell you that
But
in
we're
many of our
conditioned that way.
yeah,
From the time we're born, we're conditioned. We make wealthy people wealthier by spending money. They're living in beautiful homes with yachts and all the things and
yeah,
generational wealth because we believe, the collective, we believe that we have to spend that kind of money. And we don't.
for what purpose? If you're seeing billionaires and millionaires, right, with all the new money, as I said,
Mhm,
and they don't have the only thing that my friend has
mhm,
that you could be, and you have to be in the know to know,
mhm,
is that he had a very expensive watch. That's it.
mhm, mhm.
That's it.
So while we're confessing things, I have to give you a joke. So I had a electrician come to the house yesterday, and he said, "This is a really old house." I said, "Your point is what?" Your point at the mortgage. He said, "It's a nice house, but it why wouldn't you want to go live somewhere else?" I said, "Because it's my home. We own
Right.
it. I just wanted to change these electrical outlets that are older than Methuselah, right?"
Mm-hmm.
But there are
I know.
folks who believe your house has to be updated with, and it's not a it's updated inside in some respects, but it's not one of those big old. Because to your point, I got to keep the roof over my head. I got to make sure we're okay. And with little by little doing what I need to do because I'm married to somebody. We'll talk about that another day. But people believe that you have to have a certain aesthetic, that you have to be in a certain neighborhood, that you have to. And I never could understand that. And to Sterling's
Mhm.
point, he said this is an American issue. We were
Yeah.
raised to just spend, 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 spend. You know, I have friends who are millionaires who live in one bedroom condos or two bedroom condos.
Yeah.
They're not spending their overhead is so minimal. They're able to do the things that they want to do and to grow
Hmm.
generational wealth. We because we've been conditioned to just spend money the way we
Right.
do. We don't we are borrowing money for funerals and borrowing money for
Yeah.
college and borrowing money.
Or asking Mr. Jeremiah to pay for it.
Oh, well, there you go.
I'm
So
telling
we
you,
have work to do. And that's the
we
thing
have a
that I was
lot of
saying.
work. We have
Collectively,
a
we have
lot
to
of
come
work to
together.
do.
Yeah,
We have a
it
lot of
is.
work to do.
We have to unlearn a lot of things and relearn, right?
Right.
Relearn. I met the King of Ghana's daughter this past weekend at an event. And she looked at my ring and she said, "You're not wearing diamonds." I said, "I don't like diamonds." She said, "Tell me why." And I told her. And she had a citron. Her marriage ring was a citron. And
Hmm.
she began talking to me about how we spend so much money on these things and why and blah 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 blah. And I said that could probably be true too, but I just don't like diamonds. She started laughing. She said, and I'm just not a fan of diamonds. It's been the thing for
Hmm.
me for all my life. And the truth is, we looked at each other. The truth is, the gemstones are worth just as much, if not more.
Yep.
But they're so much more understated. Do you see where I'm going with this,
Hmm.
Calvin?
Absolutely.
So we just have to kind of, and without judgment, let's figure it out. How do we have the financial discussion? How do we talk to each other? How do we say, you know what, this looks cute over here, but I don't want to spend that kind of money on that kind of
Hmm.
cute. Where outfits are 4,000 for a T-shirt. I saw this with my own eyes. four thousand
Hmm.
dollars for a T-shirt because it has a design and I'm saying to myself, that's more than the budget of what I spend on clothes every year. But again,
Hmm.
there are things that we have to unlearn and relearn. Did you understand what I'm saying? Without the judgment.
I absolutely do. I mean, remember that the job that I am in, well, and the service that I am supposed to be providing was supposed to be something that lifts people up. The
Mm-hmm,
idea was that you would pay that $365 rent
mm-hmm,
wasn't supposed to something that you was going to be charged or have to
mm-hmm,
pay for
mm-hmm.
forever. You
Yes.
weren't going to be in public housing for forever. It was
Mm-hmm,
supposed to be you're going to pay this lower rent so that
mm-hmm,
you can save
mm-hmm,
to buy your home,
mm-hmm,
right?
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Andrea, where in the city can you find a one bedroom apartment for $365,
Nowhere. And
right?
if I ever find myself, you know what, I should join the PHA list now. So if I ever find myself in dire straits,
Right? But I'm saying, now that you understand that you're paying the lower rent, that your utilities, everything, Andrea, my mortgage isn't $365. I cannot call my
mortgage
mortgage
company.
company and say, you know what? My daughter is graduating from college. Can you give me 3 months off?
Yeah,
I'm not gonna pay you for a couple of months, but
mm,
I'll figure something out.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Right?
yeah.
We have to speak the truth about the behaviors that sometimes really inhibit our ability to move up and out. And
But who said?
those
But
discussions I think are necessary, but I don't want people to say, well, I'm poor, you're poor, so you should never own a pair of Uggs, or you should never have
Mhm,
a Jordan, or you should
mhm,
never be able to have a nice car,
mhm,
right? Or take a vacation.
mhm,
You know, I want all of those things. We are not that different.
mhm,
The people who are poor are exactly the same as the people who are not. Our
mhm,
aspirations are exactly the same. We
mhm,
wake up in the morning and we say to ourselves, I want to have a good day. I hope my children go to, if you're going out and going to school, I hope they would learn. I hope they are not impacted by what we see in our community, racism, sexism, all of the
mhm,
isms. I hope that they will be safe in their going in and they're coming out,
mhm,
right? They want that. I hope that they would have good lives. I hope that the suffering and pain and struggles that
mhm,
I had, that they wouldn't, that their
mhm,
lives are a little bit better than mine when I
mhm,
go, that I'm leaving them something, that I
mhm,
would have taught them something. All of those things matter. But I would never say that you're not entitled to have and aspire to have all of those nice things. I'm
Mhm.
saying there are consequences to it, and I want you to have a balanced approach as you deal with all of the nice things that you want. The rent collections
Mhm.
for us goes down around
Wow.
Christmas.
Oh, because everybody wants to buy the Christmas gifts.
Right.
Can I ask you this question though? Because this is the thought that I've had when I came to this country. What I recognized is there is a subliminal marketing that is done specifically to our communities to buy the expensive things that they know we can't afford, which is another trap.
So I tell you, and it's the candor. Perpetual poverty is a trap,
It's a big business.
and poverty is a business. And there are those of us
Hmm.
who see it and understand it,
Hmm.
and there are those of us because we want to patronize people. They look like us. They look like us. They are not teaching us. They are not teaching us to fish. They want us to get the fish
Yes, and figure it out ourselves
free,
because after all, they figured it out.
free.
Hmm.
They're making the
Hmm.
money and they're saying you should have that for free. I don't want to show you how to fish.
Hmm. Because after
No,
all, I figured it out. You figure it out too. Hmm.
you know.
Hmm.
So when people are coming to you with the idea and feeling that everything free, 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 right? Oh, they rescued me in 2020 because of COVID
Yes.
and they paid off my rent. They gave me a rent abatement, right? They're going to do it again. So I don't have to save. I can spend that $10,000 on my son or daughter send off, right? I can owe that 15,000. They would never evict me. Kelvin Jeremiah will evict you. Make no mistake about that,
Yes. Yeah.
right? Because it's a consequence of your bad behavior. And as my great grandmother would say to me sometimes, and I'm not encouraging or I'm not endorsing it. I don't understand how foolish I was when she said, "Go and pick a branch," because I did something and
Yeah.
I had to go pick the branch, and I
Mm-hmm.
bring the branch inside, and she tell me this is for your good,
Mm-hmm.
you
Mm-hmm.
know, because I was disrespectful to a teacher.
Mm-hmm.
I talked back. I did something not, that I shouldn't have done when I know better,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And she disciplined me,
Mm-hmm.
right? And at the same time that she disciplined me, she says, I hope that doesn't repeat itself,
Mm-hmm.
right? But guess what? I knew that that lady loved me more than sliced bread. I
Oh.
knew that her life revolved around my making good decisions so
Yeah.
that I can grow up to be a good adult.
Mm-hmm.
She didn't
Mm-hmm.
want me to shame her,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
right? And so, we have lost that. We're not ashamed anymore.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
can walk into a room and say, I owe a court. Yes, Your Honor, I owe $15,000, but I
Mm-hmm.
shouldn't have to pay it. And the judge looks at you and say, why shouldn't you have to pay it? Well, Your Honor, I've been stressed. Well, Your Honor, life has been hard. Life is hard for you and me too, right? But at the same time that you're doing that, your Uggs that you're wearing is $300.
Mm-hmm.
You have the Gucci belt that is $400, right? Your eyelashes are all the way out here. I don't understand why that is, but to each his own. It's all the way out here, and that's $150. I'm just saying. I'm just saying. The beautiful braids that you got, the thin African braids that takes
Mhm.
8 hours to
To
do.
do and tear out your hair. I can't believe
That
we've gone down this path.
that costs money.
Yes, it does.
It
Hundreds of
does.
dollars.
Nobody is doing it for free.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nobody is doing it for free. Why should you be living for free, man? Come on. Pay your
Hmm.
rent.
Yeah. Sterling says the art of teaching has been lost. It takes time and investment in our community. It's true. It is
Absolutely.
true. It is. But Charmaine says $150 a piece. Those are the fluttering eyelashes, child. I look. To
Listen,
each his own.
man,
And what is happening to people who
I
are
don't know.
trying to teach are being vilified about, what you just
Oh, we
old
don't
and
care. We don't care. We're being harsh. We don't
yeah,
understand the
yeah,
circumstances of people. Listen,
yeah,
I'm in it. I
yeah,
see it.
yeah.
And we're not talking about the person who you have people because of consequences that life, because life is lifing.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody dies.
Mm-hmm.
You have to come up with money because funeral is expensive. I
Yeah, we
get
just
those situations,
yeah.
right? You know who pays? Our seniors pay their rent
Mm-hmm.
every
Great.
month on time, and they're on fixed income,
Mm-hmm.
but they
Mm-hmm.
pay.
Mm-hmm.
The
Mm-hmm.
first thing that my mom pays is her rent.
Mm-hmm. 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 Yeah, it's we're in an interesting time.
So
This
yes, go out and
I,
get the
I
thing that you want, but let's be real about it.
I really enjoy talking to you. The conversations are they're real. They don't feel forced. They don't feel like I'm just, writing down questions and asking them of you. We really get into a conversation, and people are on here saying, I'm learning all kinds of things today. So this is good. I can't thank you enough. I really cannot thank you enough
Well, can I
for
just say to you then, my love, let me tell you, to the PHA person who might be listening to us and who might be watching, if you have lived at PHA for 50 years, if your mom, your grandma, your sisters and brothers have always lived at PHA, there is something that you have done wrong. This is what I would call real talk.
yeah.
Right now, I want you, if you've been there, I understand the senior, we're there, we love you, we're gonna always look out and take care of you. But if you're a person who is work able,
Mm-hmm.
reach out to PHA. If you have a son or daughter who, regardless of whatever decision they might have made, who want to go back to school, who want to learn a trade, who wants to learn to read, if you're a senior that is not able to read but want to learn to read right now, reach out to PHA. If you have a little money saved up under your bed and you want to be
Mm-hmm.
able to think about buying a house,
Mm-hmm.
reach out to PHA. In every single case that I just referenced, PHA will be there for you. PHA will help you lift you up and out of poverty. The only thing, the only thing I ask of our residents
Mm-hmm.
is that you want that as badly as I want it for you in order to escape that trap. If somebody is giving you something for free that you can actually earn yourself,
Mm-hmm.
earn it. Don't accept it for free. That's the lesson. 7:49 a.m. Not everything that you
Did you
get for
hear that?
free is free.
7:49. So something's telling you 7:49. We're like 9 minutes past what we're supposed to be talking. But you're absolutely correct. You're absolutely correct. There has to be an emotional gathering of us as a people around what we just discussed, without taking it personally and just deciding that this is what we're going to do, because what you just spoke to is what our current president is talking about. He is doing a thing now that if you've been in housing for more than 2 years, he's trying to get that passed. You're going to have a lot of open spaces if that passes.
Hmm.
You hear what I'm saying to you? To all them people that have been around for 40 years, 30 years, 25 years, and your mama, your grandmama, we understand, we get it, and that poverty is a trap. But we now have a president of the United States that says, no more, no more.
You have generations of people who have
Hmm.
lived at PHA for 75 years.
Stop
You
it.
have you have two generations, three generations of people. You have folks who have never worked for 50 years, who are reliant on the social welfare system. And there is a place for the social welfare system in our community. Absolutely.
Yes.
But, don't depend on people to do for you the
What you can do.
things you can do for yourself.
Now,
My great grandmother would be flipping over in her grave because all the time that she was saying stuff like that, I'm like, yeah, whatever.
yeah,
And here I am at
saying the
50
very thing.
something saying the very same thing because
Hmm.
I literally followed the instructions that she gave me.
Yeah,
I was not supposed to be here doing that,
yeah, yeah,
right? I was not a kid born to a teenage mother in poverty, a parent who shouldn't be a parent at her age, born with disabilities because we didn't have the early prenatal
hmm,
care,
hmm,
had consequences on my birth,
hmm,
born with disabilities, to now one day lead one of the largest housing authorities
yeah,
in the country.
yeah,
A life like mine could never be possible
yeah.
but for
Except that
God's
it is.
grace,
Yeah.
but for God's grace and mercy,
Hmm. Hmm.
right? It
And follow what
required,
your grandmother told you to.
and because that old lady who was going blind,
Hmm.
who I thought was faking it because she always knew what I was about to do, that cataracts didn't affect her mind at all,
Yes, yes.
right? I am telling you that there is real value when you look at your children,
Hmm.
look at them through the lens. I want their lives to be better than mine.
Yes.
And that cannot be being dependent on public systems for their livelihood and support.
Yeah.
It can never be.
Calvin Jeremiah, sir, thank you so, so much. Every time I talk to you, this is 15 minutes turns into an hour, and I'm grateful to give you that hour because so much. You should see the comments. They are literally lighting up over here.
But
Someone named
I gotta go. I gotta go
me
put out the
too. I
trash.
should have gone like 30 minutes ago.
I gotta go put out the trash, Andrea.
Oh, yes, yes, it's
My
trash day.
daughter didn't put it out last night, so it's. I looked outside and I'm seeing the bin. I'm not seeing
They're coming.
others,
They're
and
coming.
I think I'm hearing.
They're coming. All right, sir. Thank you so, so much. It's always a pleasure. We'll get this over to your people at PHA. Always a
No,
pleasure, Calvin.
the pleasure is mine. I love you. You take care of yourself
All right, you
and
too.
that old house that you have. We'll
And that's
chat.
something. All right, well, folks, bye bye.
Bye
Bye
bye.
bye. Bye bye. Oh, my goodness. All right,
I
guys. It
swear
is.
you trouble.
See you later. Bye bye.
Later.
Bye bye. You guys are, this is the way someone said to me a while ago that, and I mean a while ago, they compared me to a woman who used to be a radio show host here. I'm thinking of her. She was forthright. The only thing they said was that I was not as abrasive as she is. Can't remember her name right now, but she's well known here in Philadelphia. And then other people compared me to Barbara Walters in the way that I interview because you really truly want to hear what people are saying, where they're coming from. We can always eat the meat and spit out the bones. There's so much going on around. And as I listened to him talk today, All those lessons that were taught to me, I gave them to my sons. I now have to pass them on to my grandchildren. Can't have everything that you want. Thank God they're young and they don't ask and they don't eat fast food. Like we work with them in a way that they don't eat certain things, that they don't get addicted to certain things. All of that. Mary Mason, Mary Mason. I have been compared to that woman. So they would always say, "You're like Mary Mason, except you're nice." And I used to laugh because crazy, but there is something to be said for the way we talk to people, the way we try to see things, the way we don't allow ourselves to be triggered, right? There's a lot of unlearning to do, and that unlearning process, and it's happening with so many of us, so many of us. You hear me talk about, I don't buy new cars. We don't buy new cars. We don't buy new, anything. I was on a thing. Somebody sent me, one of them stores sent me an email, and I opened it up, just for fits and giggles. And there was a dress for like $8,000. And I looked at the dress and I was like, what? Y'all, if I told you. And so you find quality things that won't cost you a lot of money. Look for yourself. Like, this is how we live, because we just don't know what's coming down the pipe. When all this stuff was going on and the federal government was giving out money, we didn't get a dime, nor did we take a dime, nor did we apply for a dime. We didn't. We just kept chugging along and doing what we're supposed to do. But there's so much to be said for learning and unlearning and relearning. My husband used to buy new cars all the time, every few years. And I looked at him and I was like, no, my car is 10 years old. You're just blowing money. He said, but it's the only thing. Nah, yeah, well, you can buy the same car, but buy it used, right? With a few miles on it, because it appreciates so much. So these are the conversations, but that's how I was raised and learned. I'm watching my children not buying brand new cars. So what we do and how we emulate is what our children will do. And so because we've been conditioned to wear a certain name brand, we've been conditioned to all the things. It's not our fault, but we have to decondition ourselves so that we can not spend so much, right? Save more, live beneath our means. It's woo. Marguerite says, you don't succumb to the BS that spews out of people's mouths. You're factual, frank, and fair. I am. I absolutely am. Unapologetically, because we need to have these honest conversations. If you feel a prick in your conscience when I am talking, say ouch, and do a little bit of digging into why you feel the way that you feel. Every day I have to tell myself, seek first to understand instead of wanting to be understood. If someone says something, you give them an opportunity to clear it up. You talk to them, you have the dialogue. But my God, Tamala Edwards, she didn't say this to me, but someone else did. She was removed from the early morning slot because they wanted someone younger. We, I, 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 so her pivot is happening, and this just recently happened. Her pivot is happening right now, and it's just not been easy. It's not been easy. When I get up and I say to you all, some days I don't want to come on air because I am literally depressed. What's going on around in this country leaves me so depressed. I feel challenged some days to move when I would always get up and go, all right, let's go do this next thing. Da, 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 da. Like everyone else, I'm dealing with some of the same things, if not bigger. I just don't talk about it, yet. And I always end up sharing with you all on some level, because one of the things we heard from Howard and Brian Stevenson yesterday was, if you don't share your story, the way to connect with people is through storytelling. I have said it time, and I felt so validated last night listening to them. And that kindness is the way you move through this world. We're turning up our noses. Oh my God, I don't want to be seen over in there. And oh my God, I want to be in the number with the thousands of people that are hanging over here because da 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 da. Instead of saying, what value is this bringing to me? What could I learn from this? And how could I use what I learned to help other people? We don't think that way. And it's costing us as a people, as a human race. It really is. It's costing us. So we run for the bigger things and the better things and the brighter and shinier things versus staying in my little old house and just one room at a time. And it's beautiful in here. If you've been in here, you've seen it, right? But to him, it was like, oh, well, don't you want to move in a more updated? No. There's something to be said for old, solid structure that if the wind comes and blows, my behind will not be blown out in the street with it, because it's solid wood and solid stone. And in Philadelphia, the housing is so aged that you have to just constantly take a little bit of time, fix this a little bit of time, take care of that a little bit of time, right? So it is what it is. I love you all dearly. It's 8 o'clock. I should have been going out of here half an hour ago because guess what? It's copy, paste, and repeat day. And guess what we're doing? We're going to the library for story time. That's how we live in our lives. We're not spending money. We're not doing any of that things. And after we do story time, I take them to a little restaurant so they can sit out in public and learn how to, eat amongst folks and not just at home. It's all intentional. So I'm teaching them manners and how to navigate and to move through and do things. I love you all dearly. I do. I love you all dearly. Thank you all so, so much. This episode of Mornings with Mother is officially over. I am Andrea Lawful Sanders. I'll see you when I see you. Goodbye, everybody. Bye bye. Happy Friday.